Good morning, everybody. Keith Engel here for TGI Sports Talk Sunday. Stream of Conscience. It's great to have you with us here today. Welcome, everybody watching us on Facebook or YouTube. You can see live on Roku on Northeast Streaming Sports. So get that app downloaded. Lots of great content there. If you're missing out if you don't download that, just go to the Roku channel, look for the search for apps and look for the Northeast Streaming Channel app and download that, and you can get some great content all week long, including all of my shows here, either live like this one or on Memorex, as it were. And that's, I think the only show that's pre-recorded is the College Football Huddle, which will be live next week because I'm traveling, and we'll see how that goes. I'm still trying. We're going to have Jim Biringer in with us today, and it's not working out because I can't access a video. He had to referee today, and he sent me a video to play, and I can't play it. I'll post it to the site later. We'll talk a little bit maybe about some of the things that he had to talk about on there in a hockey context later. Oh, again, I want to finish welcoming everybody on TGI Sports Talk, as I said. Let's Talk Sports on YouTube. Great. Another channel with a great amount of content. Tanner D doing a great job over there. Nick Bodkins, Scott Cote, Alan Perales, who got his start here on our show. Well, great job. And Rob Logan. I go on and on. And I know Johnny Cruz. I don't want to leave guys out. I probably shouldn't start naming anybody, I suppose. Good morning, Dave Gayette. Good to have you with us. Good morning, CA. A blessed Sunday to you. And good morning again to CA. How about them Stars? We'll get into hockey in a little bit. We got a lot to discuss today. Let me finish getting this music out of here. We'll probably spend a bunch of time on college football and a couple of programming notes. I'm traveling for work. That's why I started to talk about Stream of Consciousness. Starts already. A couple programming notes. I'm traveling for work all this week. I leave tomorrow morning early, not back until about 11 o'clock Friday night. I'll be in Colorado for a couple of days. I'll be in Utah working for a couple more days after that. We have an office out there that I'm going to go spend some time in. And my brother lives in Utah, so I'll get to see him. He lives only about a quarter of a mile from my boss, ironically. So the College Football Huddle will not be live on Wednesday night, but it will be live instead of recorded on Saturday morning. It plays Saturday morning on Roku, the Northeast Streaming Sports Roku channel. And I'm going to do it live on all our platforms, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're watching us today. You can watch the College Football Huddle live Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. That ought to be interesting after traveling all day Friday, but we'll manage. And there will be no Are You Serious? Well, there will be shows. I'm going to post a repeat on Roku anyway, but we won't have a live show on Friday for Are You Serious or the Major League Baseball update. So just a couple of notes there. We're going to get into college football today. We'll go through all the college conference championship games. The stage is set for Florida State to get screwed royally today. Well, I'll start with that, and I'll start with Angry Keith because it's coming. I feel it in my bones that a 13-0 power conference champion is going to get screwed today for the first time ever and get bypassed for a one-loss team. Oh, I'm already angry. Well, we'll get into all of that stuff. Nice win for SMU with the backup quarterback over Tulane. Yeah, we'll get into that. That was a great win. I bet Tulane yesterday. And I've had some great success in college football this year. I did split 2-2 the last couple of days. Washington winner, Florida State winner, and I lost on Tulane and UNLV yesterday. SMU did a great job, and SMU, it's going to be very interesting. Another, we got the selection committee coming up with the four playoff teams right at noon today on ESPN, I think. But they're also going to be picking. You also get the rest of the bowl games, which an important one is the representative from the group of 5 in the New Year's Day 6. SMU put themselves in a great shot. Tulane was in the driver's seat, a win, and they were in. SMU winning opens the door for Liberty a little bit, who's undefeated. Listen, how are you going to penalize Florida State in the major announcement coming today, the 4? Again, they haven't done it. I just feel in my bones they're going to screw them. But you're not going to penalize probably SMU here for the New Year's Day bowl game, and they're going to be playing their backup quarterback most likely. And I'd reward Florida State for winning with their third-string quarterback, who was a freshman and taking hardly any snaps in practice with the first team all year. This is a really good football team. Third-string quarterback notwithstanding. They're a well-rounded football team, and they would play competitive football in this tournament that they're liable to get left out of. Good morning, Rick Sherlock. Let's get this out of the way. Georgia line got pushed around for the first time in memory. They did. Alabama's got – we talked about this all year long, right, Rick? Georgia's gotten better all year. Alabama's gotten better. And it was clear to me yesterday, Alabama got more better, improved more than Georgia did over that time. Alabama's a great team. And to me, this question should come down to not Florida State. Michigan's going to be 1. Washington's going to be 2. That part should be probably clear. Florida State should be 3, and the question should come down to Alabama versus Texas. Plain and simple. Then you can have the argument whether Texas win over Alabama trumps, Alabama's maybe better overall resume. I mean, Texas had the best win of all these teams, we've been talking about on the peripheral. For weeks we've been talking about this. They had the best win over Alabama, an Alabama team that wasn't as good as the team that Georgia played yesterday. Understood. That's not Texas's fault. But now Alabama's got the best win. Actually, Georgia, actually Washington had the best win, but they weren't in question, so that's why I wasn't really including them. They've got the best 2 wins. They beat Oregon twice. And you tell me, I bet Washington Friday night. How could you not? You tell me, and Oregon doesn't have a really good win on their resume anywhere that I can find. Not a standout win. Good football team, don't get me wrong. For this team to be a 9.5-point dog or favorite over a team that they lost to just 7 weeks ago, odds makers are nuts there. I mean, the Washington money had a roll in like crazy. Good morning, Kenny Gifford. Good to have you with us. Maybe we'll talk a little about Kenny. Kenny and I had a little quick discussion about Dion and some comments that came up in the debate show I was on. I was on the Mac and Jack debate show yesterday morning. Had a lot of fun. We might talk about a couple of those topics, at least one when we talk about baseball. My bones are old. Be patient. My bones are old. Yikes. It's going to be I'm not a great traveler. I like being home. I'm going out to watch football all day, but I like being home. Not a great traveler. This will be fun. I get to see my brother. It'll be fun. Kenny's got, that's exactly, by the way, what ESPN's predicting this morning. Exactly that. And it's horse crap. For Florida State to get screwed here is ridiculous in my mind. And we should have a 12-team playoff this year. The NCAA should come in, and the playoff committee should come in and say, you know what, we decided to go to 12 teams this year. They can't. We won't have this problem next year. Will it? And again, don't tell me the conference championships won't mean as much, because they still mean something for buys and such. But we wouldn't have this debate. Because I'm not getting in debates about the 12th team, the 11th and 12th teams. If you're down that far, you've lost. I could care less whether you get in or not. And we should be going to 16 teams anyway, but that's just another lawsuit waiting to happen. Doesn't matter if they're undermanned. That's not the point in my mind. I know it's part of the criteria that the committee can look at. They don't have to. They played 2 games now without their starting quarterback. Maybe they didn't win pretty last night, but they won. And the rest of this football team deserves a chance to play for the championship. Undefeated major conference champion. You can tell me all you want about the ACC not being as strong as the SEC. I'll tell you it's as strong as the Big 12. You want to compare strength of schedules, and I don't know what they are. I guarantee you, well, Texas gets skewed a little bit because of Alabama and Clemson being down. Hurts Florida State, but this is exactly, and I have no doubt that this may be the way it comes out, what Kenny had up here. But being undermanned, when you're 13-0 and have a body of work that says you deserve to play for the playoff, should not prohibit you from playing for the playoff. They ran a gauntlet through a good conference, not as good as the SEC, so what? So the criteria now becomes, and the question becomes, do you want the most competitive teams or do you want the teams that deserve it? And by the way, you're not going to convince me that Florida State wouldn't be competitive. Alabama would knock Michigan out in the first game. I'm not convinced that'll happen either, but I think Michigan, if this is a year, Alabama's gotten really good. Milroe's gotten really good. But it's not like they destroyed Georgia yesterday. What a great or 12. I mean, I guess part of what's fun about this is the debate, right? I mean, once we get to 12, whether it stays 12 or goes to 8 or goes to 16, we won't have these debates anymore. Yes, there'll be debates about the teams that get left out, but who cares about those teams? You should have played better. Which is why I think you ought to let all the conference winners in. Fonda Law surprised at fellow Perth grads rooting for them on Facebook. Really? I hate them 50 years later. Why would they do that? Well, I guess because, whatever. Perth doesn't have a team anymore. Albany State wins yesterday, by the way, to go to the quarterfinals in their level. There's too many letters in it for me to tell you what it is at the moment. But Albany State wins big. I think 41-13 maybe. So good for them. And a nice season for Fonda. Listen, I don't root against. It's high school. And I know some people up in that district. By the way, a lot of people, Amsterdam and Perth people I know that have moved to the Fonda area. 12 will ruin even, so will 8. 12's not going to have any more of a difference than 8 would. I mean, because you'd still have all the same criteria. You just have less, you'd have roughly the same criteria. You'd have less at-large teams. And I don't think the regular seasons I disagree wholeheartedly. I think the regular season becomes much more important because you're playing for 4. Again, is it important to Mississippi or somebody like that? Yeah. There's more teams in play for that 12-team playoff. Right? Mississippi and Missouri might have been playing for the 12th spot. The buys will matter, so the conference championships will matter as much or more. This is the first year the conference championships meant much on a whole in quite a few years. And I don't think it's going to water it down. I think the regular season will be more important, as important, than ever. There'll be years where it won't be. There's years where it doesn't matter now. And again, it doesn't matter now? For most teams, it doesn't, because they have no chance to play their way into this tournament. Which is why I think they had to go to 16, let all the conference champions have a chance to play for the title. Plus, you have 6 at large. I don't think the regular season gets watered down that much. There'll be collateral damage, right? There'll be some unintended consequences, if you will. Ohio State, Michigan, for instance, won't mean as much. But Ohio State, Michigan wasn't going to mean as much in the regular season anyway, because they're going away with divisions next year. So they could very well play 2 weeks in a row. If they'd come in undefeated in this, they both came into this game undefeated. If this was next year, Michigan, Ohio State would have played again yesterday. So, but believe me, the regular season is going to carry plenty of weight. And Ohio State and Michigan both would have get in a 12-team playoff, but they also would have got in an 8-team playoff. Right? Ohio State be in, Georgia be in. So I don't think the difference between 8 and 12 means that much. I really don't. Why is everybody stating the loss to Texas is just as important? Why is everybody stating the loss to Texas is just as important? Well, they lost to the one team that they're tied with. I mean, you can't throw that game out. I know they played, what seems like a year ago, but they played in this season. Alabama has 1 loss. It's to the team they're directly competing with, theoretically. They're probably both going to get in. So that's why I'm stating the loss to Texas is just as important. Just as important as what, though, Kenny? They're both major conference champions. They both have 1 loss. And Alabama's 1 loss was to that team. Well, it matters. And just as important as what is what I'm not sure about. I was rooting for them. Rick, it's time to let go. I was looking for a good game there. I had that game on. I had to have that game. I had games on the computers and the phones yesterday because my wife had to watch. We had to watch a Christmas movie, which I did watch. But I had this game on, and I had 2 other games on. And then I watched Florida State last night to its conclusion. Listen, Florida State, why do they not get credit? Again, you say they're undermanned, Kenny, but why would I not get credit? I'm 13-0, undefeated major conference championship. That should be enough. But if you want extra credit, I went out and found a way to win 2 games, including my conference championship game, with a 3rd-string quarterback. Well, last week they played much of the game with a 5th-year senior who didn't play much either. So this team finds a way. Mike Norvell and the rest of this team rallies around. And great to see Jordan Travis on the sideline yesterday, rooting his team on. I know my head is going to explode at noon. Iron face so you don't win if you believe a team can get in. What the hell does that mean? Iron face. If you don't win, you believe a team can get in. I'm not sure what that means. I'm lost. You'll have to help me there, Kenny. Our Perth education is not helping me understand your Perthism. If Alabama makes it to the playoff, I'm writing the NCAA detailed letter. Anthony, good morning, Anthony, by the way. You can count on Alabama being in. I really believe it comes down to whether they decide to screw Florida State or Texas. And I'm almost positive they're going to screw Florida State, and Texas and Alabama both get it. Either way, just because you play in the SEC doesn't give you some God-given right to be in the Final Four. Sorry. And you can talk all you want, whether it should be deserving, whether it should be the best. They're worried about TV, and that's it. Not totally it. I get that, but. And Kirby Smart, by the way, says his team still deserves to be in. You can't lose your conference championship, have 1 loss, 3 undefeated teams ahead of you, and think you can get in the tournament, Kirby. Not with 4 teams. Sorry. I'm not saying you may still be. And again, I was predicting I didn't really root for Georgia yesterday. I just wanted to see a good game yesterday, and I predicted Georgia would three-peat. That's probably down the drain. If it isn't, then we really got to drug test these guys after the vote. Where was I going with this? I don't know where I was going. Anyway, the NCAA has never, ever. So Georgia's out. No shot. The NCAA has never put a one-loss conference champion ahead of an undefeated conference championship in the history of this four-game playoff. Oh, the SEC. There's no God-given right that says you have to be in the playoff. Again, is the criteria most deserving? Best teams, hottest teams, best drawing teams. All of it plays in. I get it. Undefeated teams are out. And I would argue, by the way, that the ACC is no weaker than the Big 12. Kenny, no matter who is the best teams are right now, Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, Florida State. Yes. They're the best teams. The most deserving team is not Georgia. The most deserving team in this group would be Washington and Texas. By the way, Washington just beat a really good Oregon team for the second time. Michael Penix played very well, especially in clutch moments, down that stretch of that game. Probably made the Heisman closer. I think Bo Nix wins it, but probably Michael Penix probably made it closer. And by the way, if you watch this game, again, great college quarterback. You saw, in my mind, why I don't expect either one of these guys. And again, it's irrelevant to the conversation about their college careers. I don't expect either one of these guys to go on and have great careers in the NFL. If you watch, Bo Nix is better than Michael Penix. But you see a lot of balls just kind of thrown to a spot, and great athletic wide receivers go get the ball. They out battle the defensive back for it. Florida State should stay in regardless. Thank you, Alan. Remember, Ohio State made it with a backup way back when and won a title. Absolutely great point. Cardell, oh God, what's his name? Cardell Jones. Barrett got hurt, right? But RJ Barrett, was it RJ Barrett? No, he plays for the Knicks. I better stop trying to remember. My 63-year-old mind won't go back that far. But there is a precedent here. And then I'll say, well, Ohio State played a much better schedule that year than a Florida State. Whatever. I know they're going to get screwed. Anthony feels Texas have the team to win it all. They do. They got to get in, though. And if they do put Florida State in, then it becomes Texas versus Alabama. And now Texas might get screwed. I love what Alabama does. I think this is one of Nick Saban's greatest coaching jobs, this Alabama team. Everybody, including yours truly, was writing this team off, except maybe certain Alabama fans, after the South Florida debacle. But the team got better. You know why? Because Nick Saban's the greatest college football coach of all time. That's why. But Texas, but for one blip against Oklahoma, and Texas beat Alabama. You can't you just can't. I don't care if it was the very first game of the season. I don't care if it was as long as it's in this season, you can't just throw that out. First, the loss to Texas was in week 3. I don't care when it was. I understand Bama's better now. I'm not disputing that. Texas beat this team. Aladdin knows who is. Milroe was the starter, by the way. Texas lost to Oklahoma. Is far worse. I will give you, again, a couple things that hurt Texas, which, by the way, all these arguments you're putting up here about Texas will also tell me why they should not be in over Florida State. I'm more willing to give Alabama the nod over Texas because of this loss. Let's just assume I agree with you now, Kenny. And Texas and Alabama ranks that ahead of Texas because this loss was so long ago. They've gotten much better. Texas's loss to Oklahoma was worse. I get that. It was a close game. But Oklahoma then lost 2 games, which hurt Texas even worse. Oklahoma State's bad loss to UCF a couple of weeks ago hurt Texas. But then again, you have to use all of those criteria when you're talking about them in Florida State. Now you're talking about an undefeated team. They didn't play each other. They played in very similar conferences in my mind, and Florida State didn't have a hiccup against one of the lesser teams in their conference. Texas did. All right, so my main gripe is going to be Florida State getting left out of this. Alabama, Texas is secondary. That's going to be a byproduct of only having 4 teams. I don't expect the committee to leave the SEC out. But to get Texas in by dropping Florida State would be blasphemy in my mind. Do I have this? Yes. All your points are valid, Kenny. So, anyway. I was hoping to get Jim Biringer singing. I got to try this one more time. You guys, we're going to keep talking here, but I just want to try something real quick. Because he said he gave me access. If he did, no, I still got the same problem. So Jim Biringer was going to be on with us to talk some college football, talk some hockey, but he had to do a referee a game today, so he won't be with us. He did send me a video to play talking about the hockey, and we'll touch on the things that he had in the video, and I'll try to post it later. To be in, well, everybody yesterday in these major conference championship games are going to get a good bowl game, but it's not as prestigious as playing in this 14 playoff, obviously. And the other thing that today I'm really interested in it, and maybe you guys don't care as much as I do. I don't just pay attention to the major conferences. A lot of people, that's all they care about. SEC, Big Ten, and that might even be all they care about. I dive into the Mountain West. I dive into the AAC. I dive into the few independents are left when they're undefeated, like Liberty. Jamie Chadwell's done a great job there. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see whether SMU, who beat Tulane yesterday, or Liberty gets that group of 5 New Year's Day 6 bowl game, which I don't know what bowl game it is this year. We'll check it out. I thought it was a Cotton Bowl every year, but I'm wrong. Looking at some of those today. We'll look at some of those potential matchups too before we get done, maybe. If they let Alabama in, they're basically saying regular season doesn't matter. I don't necessarily say that. They just want the money matchup. I agree with that. I mean, regular season does matter. I mean, if the regular season doesn't matter, they'd put Georgia in there too. The regular season matters. I don't think this. Well, again, actually, it's a very good point. Alan, now that I'm thinking about it, let's go back to the Alabama-Texas matchup that Kenny wants to focus on being in week 3, and so do a lot of people. In fairness to Kenny, this is, the main talking point. That happened so long ago. Alabama got better. If that's the case, why schedule the game at all? Now, they're going to be in the same conference going forward, but why would non-conference teams, why would you schedule big conference matchups early in the season? There's no time to play them later because the SEC gets into their schedule, and then they got to play a cupcake late in the season. They're not going to play that game in week 11 or 12. They're not doing that. So why schedule the game at all? Because, as Alan said, theoretically, apparently it doesn't matter. That game is eliminated from the conversation because it was so long ago. And Alabama's a better team now. Well, guess what? Texas, I think, is a better team now, too. Texas had some closer battles than Alabama did. Mostly. They didn't go out and struggle with anybody as bad as South Florida, though. So, a good point. I started to disagree with you a little bit, Alan, but you're right. I mean, and Texas is a perfect example. And it isn't necessarily the regular season doesn't matter, but why schedule these non-conference games if you're going to say, oh, well, that was 10 weeks ago. Who cares? Not fair. But, life isn't fair, and life in the NCAA is far from fair. Don't deserve to get in. Smart got out coached. Excellent. Rick, very, very classy, because a lot of guys don't do this. A lot of guys would make excuses. One thing I've never done, if my team stinks, man, I say my team stinks. Not that George is horrible, but excellent point. They don't deserve to get in. You need to win that game. You're out. Most deserving team is Liberty, 12-0. Well, I don't think they're the most deserving team, but listen, in my format, well, if they go play in a league, Liberty was playing. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm wrong. I was thinking Liberty was an independent. They are not. Didn't Liberty play in the, let me just double check this. They were an independent. I believe they moved into a league this year. Didn't they play in the Conference USA yesterday? Yeah, they undefeated in conference. Next year, they would have a very good chance of being in the tournament. And in my format, they'd be in because they wanted their conference. It's a really good football team. I don't know that they can match up with the Georgias and the Florida states and Alabamas, Washingtons. Who's they, by the way? Anthony. I would give it to Bo Nix or Michael Penix, only because Jalen Daniels is a really good athlete, really good quarterback. But he put up some of the numbers he put up recently was against some very inferior competition. Not all of it. So John DeLong comes here. Let's take a quick look at the Heisman odds. I'd be shocked if he's not second in the Heisman odds. And it might depend on where you're looking. If you're looking at the, let's see where they are right now. I'm going to bet Bo Nix is still first. 13 hours ago, USA Today Heisman shows Jalen Daniels a favorite. Bo Nix slides. Good call. Anthony again breaks the news on this show. 3 consecutive weeks, Anthony's on top of this stuff. I can't read all this stuff right away. That's the problem. Now, there's probably some betting sites I can go to and probably find something different. But I don't know. Heisman's another thing. It's subjective voting, right? Is it the best player? Is it the best player on the best team? To me, it's the best college football player regardless. So maybe Jalen Daniels. But that doesn't mean statistics. Good job, Anthony. Is that AI or Al? I think it's AI. It says, humanity, please make rules before this happens. Stop difficulties ahead of time. Is that Al or AI? It's probably AI. By the way, speaking of AI, when the machines rise up, you guys should be nowhere near me because they're coming for me. I get on I berate my Alexa, the Alexas all over the house. I berate them. I berate Bixby on my Samsung. I berate my car. They're coming for me. Seminoles have a playoff care. They have a championship defense. That defense is really, really good. And they did play great last night. Now, I know, again, the argument's going to be, well, it was Louisville. You only play the teams on your schedule. Please. Debate again, yeah. You know what I'm afraid of? We'll all get to debate it, Nick. But I'm pretty sure Florida State's going to get screwed. And by the way, condolences to you on your Iowa team yesterday. I think we pretty much, unfortunately, got the result that we thought we would get yesterday. It was just, there's no way they could win that game. You got to be able to score some points, right? I mean, the under was a great bet again yesterday. But good morning, Nick. Great to have you with us as always, and really sorry about your team. None of those old quarterbacks did a good late in the season. Those old quarterbacks. Kenny definitely has an issue with 6 and 7 year seniors, which there'll be some. By the way, there's going to be a record number. There might already be a record number. There's like 50 quarterbacks in the transfer portal already, and some really good ones. Here's the Bodkin Show college football playoff, which actually matches mine. Michigan, Washington, Florida, and Texas. Florida State and Texas. That's exactly how I have them lined up. And I guarantee you, so I don't know if you looked at the ESPN predictions this morning, which have been pretty close. They have it, Alabama and Texas both in and Florida State out. The debate this morning, Nick, if you've missed it, is the fact that, and you've heard it with the talking heads on the pregame shows and whatnot, that the Texas-Alabama game was so long ago. Alabama's a much different team. And Alan said that the regular season doesn't matter is what you're saying. I will tell you that they're saying that game doesn't matter. So why schedule it? Well, next year they'll be in the same conference, so it may not matter. But why schedule non-conference games in September if they're not going to count in November and December? Why? Don't schedule the game at all. Let Alabama play another cupcake. You think Alabama's going to play Texas in week 11 or 12? No, they're not. Well, not 12, because that's going to be the Iron Bowl. You think they're going to play in week 11 when they go out and play Chattanooga? God. Am I angry? Do I sound angry? I haven't got enough sleep the last couple of nights. There is zero chance Ohio State can get back at it. There's no chance. Ohio State needed Michigan to lose. Well, actually, Michigan winning probably would have helped them. Washington had to lose. Florida State had to lose. Texas had to lose. I mean, there was mathematically a way for them to get in, but they're not. They're going to finish 7th probably in this pick today, I would think. Kenny's okay with Florida State getting in. Good. As far as Texas, the whole state could go to Mexico and you'd be happy. So this is more of you hating Texans, similar to the way. Actually, it's funny. Not CA. Sorry, I don't mean to see it. I misspoke here. John DeLon, our resident SEC elitist, who's in the college football show a lot and sometimes pops in here. Hate to talk behind his back, but he'll be able to watch this later, so I guess I'm not. He hates the state of Texas as well because he feels it's all, not the whole state, but the Austin capital area is becoming basically California in the deep south. But I don't have a problem with Texas. Actually, I like Texas. Too hot, but I like Texas. SEC won't be left out. Texas will get in as the 4th. Again, that's what ESPN's predicting. Texas and Alabama both in. Where does it say? Where is it written the SEC's got to have a representative? They've had one every single year of this 4-year or 14 playoff. I mean, my God. Well, so this is why they've got to go to, 8 teams would certainly benefit this as well. We wouldn't have this discussion even if it was 8 teams. I want to give the Liberties of the world a chance. Kenny just said Liberty's the best 12-0 team, which they're not. I mean, I know you weren't serious, Kenny. But a team like Liberty wins their conference, goes 12-0. Why shouldn't they have a chance to play for the championship? Again, 16 teams, 10 conference champions, 6 at large. Done. Go ahead and sue me, Basement Bob. Guys, ACC 6-4 against the SEC thus far this season. Thank you, CA. Listen, I with that said, I'm not going to sit here and say the ACC is better than the SEC because it's not. And then you're going to get the argument, some of those games, especially like Florida State, LSU was played really early. Like it doesn't matter. So again, and if that doesn't matter, if the argument comes up again, then why are we scheduling these games? I will tell you the Big 12 and the ACC are not that far apart when you look at them strength-wise. Very, very similar in my mind, except there's more teams in the ACC. Here's a question from Kenny. Is it better to win against your arch rival or a national title? We may have talked about this before. We probably have, and I'm sure, I think I still got music playing here. Hope you guys can't hear that. If you do, I apologize. There we go. It's a great question, but I still think national titles trump beating your rival. And I would argue there aren't going to be many years you have a chance to play for a national championship if you don't beat your arch rival anyway. Just saying. So in down years, well, you're going to say, probably teams are going to say that. I lost my spot. Here we go. Excuse me. I think if you're having a down year, you're going to say, well, as long as we beat Auburn, as long as we beat Ohio State, as long as we beat blah, blah, blah. Melrose got benched in a Texas game. Melrose. That's okay, Kenny. Melrose Place. I know that was one of your favorite shows, I think, in the 90s. So I understand why you got confused there. Yeah, I'm just saying he started the game. He got benched because he was playing poorly. And he's a different quarterback. That entire team is different now. I get that. But it's irrelevant. His bad play was also caused by Texas's good play. We forget this sometimes, right? We rip teams for the way they play badly. We rip teams for a quarterback playing horribly. We rip teams for bad special teams. We talk about special teams a lot. I say they're important. I don't always say some bad special teams is caused by the other team playing really good special teams. We tend to get fixated, and so do I, by the way. I do the same thing. We get fixated on somebody can't do this or didn't do this. And we don't sit and analyze it and say, well, they didn't do that because the better team took it away or caused it to happen. If the regular season matters, Texas beat Alabama point blank, I think he means. Texas been number 7 for weeks, starting out in the top 50, right? Again, if I'm Texas, or if the committee says this game doesn't matter because it got played so long ago, like it was, a different team in a different season. If that's the case, then don't schedule. Who's going to schedule these games? Why should Florida State go play LSU? Right? Why should Clemson go play whomever? You're going to tell me later on the game really didn't matter. It was too long ago, and things have changed drastically since then. Just don't schedule them then. Won't have cupcake games anymore, Nick, but they'll still have cupcake games. Everybody's going to get a cupcake. I guarantee you Bama's got a cupcake next year. I guarantee you every one of these teams has a cupcake next year. Let's look at Bama's schedule. By the way, Florida's got a tough schedule. One of the toughest schedules in I just lost. Oh, crap. I just lost all my stuff. Oh, well. Guess we're going to rough it now, guys. Oh, man. Closed all my notes up. All my little cheat sheets. Well, that was brilliant. It usually lets me restore the pages, and don't ask me at this time. Boy. Recently closed. Can I open those back up? 27 tabs. Open them all up. Restore. I got it. Look at that. Anyway, what was I looking for here? Alabama's schedule next year. Bama, 24. Can't see my keyboard because it's pushed way up here. Bama, 24 schedule. You want to bet me there's a huge cupcake on this schedule? Alabama football schedule next year. Western Kentucky to start things off. USF. Oh, this is this year. No, this is next year. They got Georgia during the year next year, though. So they start off with Western Kentucky. They play UCF, meaning South Florida. Mercer. They got 3 cupcakes if you want to look at it that way. One real cupcake in Mercer, and at least they play that game in November and not December. So please don't think because the SEC is getting 2 more good teams, they won't find a way to get cupcakes because they always do. Iowa under team total hit each half about 5. I heard, at least during ESPN game day, and I know we talked about this Wednesday night, Nick. The bald guy who I don't really like. His picks are horrible. He was saying that it was 3 in each half, field goal in each half. I didn't look, so I'm going to take your word for it over his because that guy is horrendous. Kenny, pretty soon you will have 22-year-old playing high school, but well, I don't know. High schools don't have the same kind of rules, redshirt rules and eligibility rules as college is. I suppose they could tweak them. I thought it was an island. I guess I am on the same island with you, Nick. You're with the old folks this time. I said last night, I was telling my wife, I'm watching a Florida State game. Their defense is dominant. The quarterback didn't play horrendous. The team is gutty. And why shouldn't you be rewarded? First of all, you should be rewarded for winning a power conference undefeated. But if that's not enough, why can't you be rewarded for the fact that you muddled through these 2 games after you lost one of the best quarterbacks in the country? Lots of college football today. In the future, once tablets tell the coaches to have games, starters will be pulled, and especially quarterbacks. In the future, I'm not going to live to see that. I'm an old man. Maybe they should have a playing game between Texas and Alabama. Well, that'd be great, but there's, again, they're not going to do that. There's plenty of time to do it. Excuse me. And actually, that's kind of what you'll get. Well, maybe not between Texas and Alabama. Well, in some cases, it might be. You're going to have those play-in games next year. Starters. I figured that out. Good question. Kenny and I talked a little about this last night, a couple messages back and forth, and I think, Rick, you were in that conversation, but is he in the transfer portal now? No. Have you seen the Dr. Pepper? I have. I think I have. I love those Dr. Pepper commercials are mostly very, very good. There's some really interesting ones too. There was one about the realignment, which I thought was really cool. I'll also look for the portal one, Rick, because I'm not sure if I've seen it. And the Boz is awesome in these commercials as well. So great job by Dr. Pepper. But we'll check it out. Is Deion in the transfer portal? No, I don't think he's leaving this year. Although he's losing coaches, he's losing his best recruiter. He's got some kids that have entered the transfer portal. Listen, I said and I don't think Deion, and Kenny said he doesn't think he's chasing the money, but then he said he's going to the NFL because of his ego. I think Deion wants to work with kids. That does not mean I think he's staying at Colorado forever. I don't see a place for Deion to go right now. He's not leaving Colorado to go to, I don't know what's still open, Mississippi State. Not leaving to go there. But is Deion going to be at Colorado for 10 years? No, I don't think so. I think he'll find another job. And I don't think it's going to be on the NFL level for a couple of reasons. And Kenny mentioned ego, and I get nobody's got a bigger ego than Deion. But I think he truly wants to coach kids. And by the way, if you want to coach kids and make a lot of money, the place to be is college football. There is nobody in the NFL making the money. Well, maybe Belichick is this year. Nobody's making the money in the NFL that Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Jimbo Fisher is making for not coaching. Mel Tucker would have made if he wasn't the stupidest man on the planet. Franklin, there's nobody in the NFL making that money. So if you want to make money and you want to work with kids, then you stay. Neil Bush is with us this morning. Good morning, Neil. Good to have you with us. Texas should be 4, but no SEC teams. So Neil's on the same page as Nick and I. If you'd missed it, Nick, and good morning again. I've got Michigan first, Washington. I think I had Texas 3rd and Florida State 4th. I'm okay with that. I don't care about the 1 through 4. You can rank any way you want. I just don't care. But Florida State should not get screwed. And by the way, they're going to get screwed. They're absolutely going to get screwed. I'd be shocked if they weren't. ESPN prediction has them 6. Behind Georgia, who last time I looked, which was only last night, didn't even win their conference championship. Nick, some news I talked about on the college football huddle the other day. Your boy, Spencer Rattler, is headed to the NFL. We've probably seen the last of Spencer Rattler, would be my guess. Big disappointment in South Carolina. I think. Big disappointment in Oklahoma. Big disappointment in high school. I follow this kid. I think I've told this story a bunch of times. I follow this kid since he was a senior in high school on a show called QB1. And he didn't even make it through the season, and we never found out what happened to him and why he was kicked off the team. He went to Oklahoma, fizzled out. Caleb Williams became the starter over him. He goes to South Carolina, up and down, never really reached his potential. I think the kid's a head case. After watching what I watch, now kids grow up. I don't think he makes it on the next level. Texas is semi-SEC, semi. But they're not there now. We'll see what happens next year. Basement Bob flooded out. For those of you who don't know, Basement Bob is a guy who, when I expounded on my thoughts about a 16-team playoff and giving automatic bids to every conference winner, which is only 10, by the way, and 6 at-larges, which I thought made perfect sense. Give every champion a chance to play for the championship. Only makes sense. The other divisions do stuff like this. And believe me, I knew I wasn't the first guy to talk about this, but I had a guy who wanted to sue me. He wrote me a letter and threatened to sue me because he'd written a book, which nobody ever read. I think he wrote it in his mom's basement. So I've yet to get sued, but every time I bring it up, I increase the chances. Schedule's is made years in advance. Well, they have to tweak it, Kenny. When you add 2 teams, you have to tweak the schedule. So some teams got dropped from Alabama's schedule. They'll always find ways to. They're not going to play 9 conference games. You play 12 games. There's 3 spots for cupcakes, and they've got 3 cupcakes in my mind. There's years where Western Kentucky's okay, but not unless Bailey Zappi's playing quarterback. Another conversation. South Florida. How long has it been since they've been good? And Mercer. And by the way, the schedules are made in advance. Schedules are changed almost yearly. And they have to be changed when you're bringing 2 new teams in. I know they've been coming for 2 years, but if they're made years in advance, they had to change some schedules. This year's schedule had to be changed. They had to drop. Well, let's see. Do they play both those teams? They play Oklahoma next year. So I guess they only had to make 1 change. They don't have Texas on the schedule next year. They do have Georgia during the regular season next year, Rick. Kenny believes Manning's not going anywhere. Will lead Alabama to the national championship next year. Very interesting. Cam Ewers, by the way, is making noise that he may very well return. All signs pointed to Arch Manning returning to Texas next year as well. It'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. I still think if I'm Arch Manning, I said this when he was being recruited. There's no better place to go than the place his grandfather and his father, to a lesser extent as a wide receiver, played their college careers in Ole Miss and go to Ole Miss and win an SEC championship. That is big news. Everything else that Arch Manning does will be, again, if he goes to Alabama or he goes to Georgia or he stays at Texas and wins a national championship or an SEC championship, it's all good. It's great for him. It's a great accomplishment. The story will never be as good as if he goes out to Mississippi and does the same thing. Let's just take all the Power 5 and Group of 5 teams, put them in a single elimination tournament and not play a regular season games at all. Well, then we'd only be playing but we'd only be playing about 4 games. And some teams would play 1. You can't do that, Al. I know you're being facetious. Chad Collins, who we had on Wednesday night, is with us. Hard to believe Georgia won't be in the championship with a 3-point loss. I'm not a Georgia fan, just a good football fan. I can't put Georgia in. And again, Chad, to be clear, I picked Georgia all year long. I was on Georgia to 3-peat. I do think Georgia is one of the better teams in the country. I can't put them in a 14 playoff, I'll say again, over a conference champion. I can't say they're not more deserving than Washington. They're not more deserving than Michigan. They're not more deserving than Florida State. They're not more deserving than Alabama. And they're not more deserving than Texas. They're 5th. They had their chance last night to play their way in. They're winning, they're in. You got to take care of business. I get they're the defending champion. I'd like to see them in and get a chance to have my prediction come true. If they make it in, oh. Before I forget, check the Rick Sager for a hazmat suit before getting on the plane. Gotta have it by tomorrow morning. So I'm going up Amsterdam way. Maybe I can meet him. Stop by the Creekside later. I'll buy you a beer. I'll send the highlights of Destados in the fantasy chat. Several future projected stars. Okay, cool. That's one of the big high school matchups that have been played. As you know, all these championships are getting played, state championships, but some of these schools, and I don't know these two specifically. I think I know DeSoto, but many of these schools, we got talking about the QB1. These high schools, they play a national schedule, guys. They're flying all over the country. It might as well be college football. Caleb Williams used to stop making Dr. Pepper commercials, all the bad luck he's having. You know, it's very... I thought about that, and I only saw that commercial the first time like a couple of weeks ago. But I think it would have been very funny if that, and maybe it did air earlier in the season. And if you haven't seen it, it's talking about all his bad luck. I wear number 13. He walks under ladders, black cats, and all this, and he doesn't believe in superstitions. He probably should not have made that commercial. That's a great call. That one will rival the Sports Illustrated and John Madden video game jinxes, right? This is why the playoff is expanding to 12. Exactly. Someone's going to be, and by the way, I'm not going to get into arguments about teams that got left out of the 12th spot. I could care less. If you're not good enough at that point, please don't even talk to me. Someone's going to be angry today. Unfortunately, it ends up being, if it ends up being Paul Feinbaum and the SEC elitist, then I'm happy. Feinbaum sometimes will give other conferences some credit, at least. You know, the elitist fans are the ones who think the only good football is being played in the SEC. You're fortunate, Alan, that you're going to the one conference in the country that matters. There's no good football being played anywhere else. That's sarcasm, by the way, if you didn't recognize it. Can't get the collar on my shirt right. Bothered me. What do you got, Anthony? Boy, we got a lot of stuff on college today. Deion going to Florida or Florida State? Deion will likely, if I agree with Anthony. Problem is, I said this when Deion was at Jackson State. When Mike Norvell looked like he was going to wash out of Florida State, I'm positive Deion would have got that job. That job's not going to open up for quite a while now, because Florida State has rebounded in a big way. They're set up theoretically to be pretty good in the future and playing for national championships. So that job's not going to open up. Florida it should probably happened already, but we're not past the coach firing season yet. Billy Napier may very well be out of Florida now, and I don't think Deion's moving to Florida, and I'm not sure that he wants the Gator job. I don't know that that's that good a job. Very hard, or much harder for all these Florida schools to recruit than it was in the past, because the kids don't stay home. Where are we? So leave out the best teams so the lesser ones can win. Wow, what are you talking about? What are we talking about now? I got an undefeated Florida State team. How are they not one of the best teams in the country and being allowed to play for the title? If you're the best team, you win your conference. You don't lose. Georgia had a chance to play their way in yesterday. If that's what we're talking about, they had a chance. That's one of the teams we're talking about. Texas, again, I would argue that their schedule is no better than Florida State's. The conference is no better than the ACC. Alabama, again, I'm not sure who we're arguing about. Because you can't sit here and tell me Florida State's not one of the best teams in the country. They're without their starting quarterback right now. Up until then, they've been one of the best teams in the country. You're going to penalize them and give them no chance to play for a national championship because of an injury. That's ridiculous. That happens in no other sport. None. That doesn't happen in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes gets hurt in game 16. Out for the year. You think, we're not going to take the Chiefs to the playoffs because they got no chance to win. SEC on CBS signed off. Yeah. Gary Danielson gets ripped. I like Gary Danielson. My favorite stretch, one of my favorite stretches of college football was that 3:30 window before they started playing, too many games at night. That 3:30 window on Saturday with Vern Lundquist and Gary Danielson doing the best SEC game of the week. Tremendous. And we don't have anybody like that now. I got to listen to Gus Williams yell. I got to listen to Ken Gifford. Manning is not on Alabama. I think he knows that. Thanks for explaining. It makes a little better sense. Well, if I explained something that made better sense, thank God, Chad. It's all due to caffeine. Time we got here. I spent a lot of time on college football. I knew this would happen. Let's get through all the games. These high schools are playing national schedules. They're mostly prep schools. This is true. I watch a couple of really good documentaries following some of these schools I can't remember. God, there was a couple. I can't remember what the hell the name of the documentary was. But they followed this school in Texas. They followed the California schools. They weren't all prep schools, though. This one in Texas was a really small school, and it was a Catholic school. Wear a T-shirt. I sometimes do, but in the summertime I do, but I try to class it up a little bit with a collar, Kenny. Maybe I'll go to a tie next week. Now we got Bo Nix losing. Now he's crying, saying he might not play in the bowl game. Go, don't play, Bo. Who cares? Go protect your future because you're going to get paid in the NFL and you're going to be Mac Jones 2.0. I mean, how do you get mad at the kids for not playing when the coaches don't play? The coaches take jobs and they don't coach in the bowl games. There should be a moratorium that nothing happens until the season's over. At least until the major bowl games are over. You can't make kids play. I get that. But coaches, coach. How do I get mad at kids? I've had to soften my stance on kids on almost all the topics when it comes to them. I've had to soften my stance on this topic, not playing in bowl games because coaches don't even coach once they take a new job somewhere else. I've had to soften my stance on NIL and the transfer portal and transfer portal specifically, let's talk about, because there's no loyalty. Why should the kids be loyal to a school that gave them a scholarship when, number one, the coaches aren't loyal? They leave as soon as there's a better offer. And now, even the programs, the universities aren't loyal to anybody. They aren't loyal to the kids they sign to scholarships. They aren't loyal to the leagues that they belong to. They aren't loyal to their own fans who travel with them because they're going to play all the way across the country for half their season. More power to the kids. Deanna is all about his kids. I don't agree. Travis Hunter's not his kid. Travis Hunter's the best player in that team, and he knows it. And I think Travis Hunter gets a lot more. And the other kid, I don't even know the other kid's name. I know Shedeur because his name's Shedeur. And by the way, that kid's not playing in the NFL. If you think he's going to the NFL to follow him, he's not going to be an NFL quarterback. He might hold a clipboard or be on a practice squad. That kid's not playing the NFL. He was exposed just like the rest of this team. And again, not a horrible job by Deion this year. That's a bad football program. People forget how bad that's been. It's been basically a wasteland for 2 decades. St. Rose, yeah. And they don't. But it's a great point. St. Rose is a local small college up here in upstate New York. The student athletes, students in general, I suppose. I mean, students, plain old students, I guess, can transfer elsewhere without that big a deal. But student athletes, you telling me that they didn't know there was a chance they were closing their doors when they were recruiting these kids? I'm going to look at it totally from a sports angle, and I know it's bigger than that. But, you know, they didn't know when they were recruiting these kids last spring that there was a chance the school would be closing. It didn't happen in a month. Very sad story. And St. Rose, as I'm sure Kenny knows, they've got some pretty. And again, I think they play Division III sports for the most part. They've had some really good women's programs. They had a good men's basketball team for a long time. In some of the other sports, they're very good. In lacrosse, I think they were good in. Soccer, I think the women's soccer team is very good. So, yeah, this is just a bad situation on the local level. Heisman wrapped up or still to be determined? Well, Anthony Price broke some news that Jalen Daniels is now the betting favorite. And Bo Nix dropped after his performance Monday night. I think it's maybe still open. Chad, I think you'll probably see the 3 guys that'll get invited to New York. I think will be Daniels, Nix, and Penix. And I think Daniels will win this because, you know, his numbers. And again, he put up one of his better games against a cupcake, and they left him in the game the entire way. So Jalen Daniels played many less important games than Nix or Penix did, but is that part of the criteria? It's the best player in college, but it's not the guy with the best looking stat line. He's a very good college quarterback. He's a great college quarterback. Don't know that he'd be my Heisman winner. I think right now I would make Michael Penix would be my Heisman winner because he found a way to get his team to an undefeated season. That's why Jordan Travis should have gotten more chatter about him for the Heisman than he was getting before he got hurt. Because I think just Michael Penix is playing a lot of big games. Didn't always play great, but he played well in big moments for the most part. And that's what people remember. And they remember a Heisman moment. It's not 6 touchdowns, and it could be, I guess. A lot of times it's one play. I think if Oklahoma had done well, then Dylan Gabriel would have had a better chance too, because he had a great Heisman moment against Oklahoma or against Texas. Boo-hoo. Heisman could go to the kid from Texas. Cam Ewers? No. I'll be honest with you, Kenny. I would certainly consider him. But these guys are so wrapped up in numbers now. The voters are so wrapped up in numbers that I'm just not sure that we're ever going to get past it. Penix does good in the playoff. Yeah, but his votes are all in. I think the votes have to be in. I think the votes have to be in now. The Heisman is actually revealed next Saturday, I believe. It's normally the same day as Army Navy that evening. So the votes are probably already in. All the votes, I think, had to be in by maybe this Saturday. So the playoff will not help his Heisman chances. Certainly well before that, even if it's a Saturday after. It's either this Saturday or the following Saturday, and I think it's still this Saturday because I remember historically it being the same night as Army Navy, which we've got coming up next week, guys. Watch the military academies play. I love that they still have a standalone, except for some, lower division playoff games that'll be on TV, but they have a standalone stage for this Army Navy game, and they aren't at the best. They aren't playing at their best right now, but it's still a game that people need to watch, and I always watch it. I won't have a chance to talk about it until it's happened next week because I'll be traveling in the college football. Actually, I will have a chance to talk about it next Saturday morning live. Keep that in mind, guys. As I told you, I'll be on live with the college football huddle on Saturday morning at 9:00. Ohio State wide receiver should at least be invited. Listen, I've said for a while, and again, that the second part of your comment, though, isn't relevant to the Heisman, Rick. So we have to eliminate. I'm not saying he shouldn't be invited, but it shouldn't be because he's going to be a great pro. I've said a lot of times, very often, that the best player in college football is Marvin Harrison Jr. The offense on Ohio State was not as good as it's been in the past. The quarterback play, not as good as it's been in the past. They weren't able to utilize him every game the way some other teams might have or previous Ohio State teams would have. So I don't think he's going to get invited. And they might. I mean, it's not always the top three finishers that get invited. So maybe they'll invite him. As far as your second comment, which really, again, I do not think is related to this Heisman conversation at all, because it's not about who will be the best pro. He will be the best pro. And I said on my show, I said on the Mac and Jack show last week, that there will be many NFL teams who take one of these quarterbacks and are going to be very sorry they didn't take Marvin Harrison. Just saying. Gotcha. No problem, Chad. I feel the kid from Coastal Carolina will be a good pro quarterback. That's possible. Yes, that's possible. I'm not a big fan of the top guys. I'm not a big fan of Caleb Williams. I'm not a big fan of Penn. Great college quarterbacks. I'm just talking about on the next level. It has nothing to do with Heisman's or anything else. But on the next level, I like the kid. I can't think of his name right now. It's escaping me. I like that kid's chances on the pro level. Drake May, I think, will be better than the other three that I mentioned. I think Cam Rising, once he comes out, he's going to be one of your favorite 26-year-old quarterbacks next year, Kenny. Will be a good college quarterback, but he's not coming out this year. He's decided to stay. I think those three guys might be better than the other three guys we're talking about. Top five in order for the Heisman. I like that order. I would put I would slide I like the first three. I think I would probably, well, if I was voting, I would probably have Harrison third. I think I'd have him at least fourth, and I'd slide Milroe and JJ McCarthy down one. Jalen Milroe gets hurt by the fact that he wasn't very good for the first third of the season, but he played great after that. JJ McCarthy didn't play as well late in the season as he played early. JJ McCarthy, I think, will be a good professional quarterback as well, by the way. I have an affinity. Most people will be able to figure this out. I have a very strong affinity for Michigan quarterbacks. Just saying. I ain't even got to all the scores yet. You guys have kept me busy here. FanDuel is number 6. There you go. Again, remember something. Those are betting odds. Betting odds are what they are, and I get it. It's really the only place you can get kind of well, there's other places that are forecasting this that aren't betting sites, but they're the easiest place to get it. They got nothing to do with the voting, though. Voting has zero to do with FanDuel. All right, let me give the scores here. We're gonna move on to some football here before we run out of the whole show. I got a baseball question. Kenny, you might be interested in, actually. It comes from the debate show I did yesterday on the Mac and Jack show with Doc Semin. Let's get to the scores here quick. Let me go through the scores for all the championship games. Obviously, Washington gets by Oregon 34-31. This is a great game, I thought. It looked like Washington might run away, and then Oregon fought back. It went back and forth a little bit. Michael Penix, 318 yards and a touchdown. Bo Nix was not very good in this game. Liberty, 12-0. Runs past New Mexico State. Not a bad football team, by the way, 49-35. Really good season for Jamie Chadwell in his first year at Liberty. Don't expect him to be there maybe more than another year. Find his way into the SEC most likely at some point. Alabama with a great game, as we know, over Georgia. Carson Beck, no touchdowns in this game. This is a very good college football game. One that was not a very good college football game. Iowa's defense played as well as can be expected. They did give up 26 points. Gave up only their third rushing touchdown of the year, but they fall. I'm sorry, their third and fourth, I believe. Corum scored 2 touchdowns in this game. But they can't put a point on the board, and they get beat 26-0. Florida State, again, not a classic game, but it was a fun game to watch, I thought. There was a lot of action both ways, close plays in the end zone. Defenses played well. Florida State's defense played really well, especially with their back to the wall. A couple of times, the Florida State offense and the Florida State special teams put them in trouble with their backs to the wall, and they managed to hold Louisville 2 field goals in the second half. Texas rolls over Oklahoma State 49-21. Those points will help them today. Tulane, who I liked a lot yesterday, gets beat by SMU. SMU and Liberty will likely be the 2 teams vying for that group of 5 New Year's Day 6 bowl matchup, which we'll look to see where that is in a second. Boise State gets by UNLV, who I loved yesterday. They got killed 44-20. And Toledo, their undefeated MAC season comes to an end. They lose to Miami, a good Miami team, 23-14. And Appalachian State gets killed by Troy yesterday, 49-23. And those are all of your conference championship games. I did want to look at the some of these bowl projections real quick if I still have it, because I want to see. We know where with the Rose Bowl. Let's see. The Rose Bowl is going to be one of the semifinal games. The other one is going to be the Sugar Bowl. That'll be the other semifinal game, and then the final is not affiliated with any bowl game. The New Year's Day 6. I'm just going to look at these right now real quick. Cotton Bowl predictions. Georgia State, Penn State, one guy predicts, another guy predicts Oklahoma and SMU. So I guess these group of 6 can go different places. Some people have them in the Peach Bowl. SMU. I haven't seen Liberty yet. SMU, Missouri, Ohio State, Oregon, Ohio State, Oregon would be a nice matchup. Georgia, Penn State, I think it would be a nice matchup. But James Franklin won't win this game. From a betting standpoint, I hope that game happens. Capital One Orange Bowl. Maybe Louisville, Alabama, if Bama's left out. Interesting. Florida State and Georgia, if Florida State's left out. That would be interesting. The Fiesta Bowl on New Year's Day night. Oregon and Ohio State, maybe, and Missouri and Penn State. That's the only game I see Missouri predicted in. Now, Peach Bowl, too. Missouri's got to get one of these New Year's Day bowl games. Listen, SMU played really well. They played with their backup quarterback yesterday. But if I'm this committee, I've got to reward Jamie Chadwell and Liberty for a 12-0 season and get them into that. I'm not going through the rest of these bowls. So, how we got that? Anything else I missed? FanDuel. Oh, there you go. Same stuff I talked about. Okay, good. Let's move into the NFL, guys. It's almost 10 o'clock. We haven't even talked any NFL yet. So let's move on. I don't know if I'm going to get to the stuff Jim Biringer wanted to talk about. We don't have him with us, and I can't play his video. I apologize. I'll find a way tonight to get it up. Here we go. The NFL hits December. Let's take a look around the league before we go into the games. Any news you want to talk about? You got any topics you want to look at? Panthers looking to find an offensive-based coach for Bryce Young. Bryce Young, by the way, Bryce Young hasn't had as bad a rookie season as people wanted to say. He's a rookie quarterback. Not everybody comes in and plays as well as C.J. Stroud. He's had some injuries. He hasn't played great, but his numbers aren't as bad as even Zach Wilson's or Mac Jones. Well, they're kind of like Mac Jones numbers, but they're not god awful for a rookie quarterback. He will get better. Do I think he's going to be a great starting quarterback in the NFL? No, but you don't give up on a guy after he's played 8 games. So just annoying. Can't believe the people that give up so fast on these guys. I'll tell you beforehand if I don't think they'll be any good. But I'm not giving up on them right away. Let's look at the standings real quick. The AFC East, 2.5 game lead, really, for the Dolphins over the Bills. The Bills really struggling. I'm not blaming this all on Josh Allen, as we talked about in the debate yesterday. Josh Allen, his numbers are still very good. This team somehow is 6-6 with a plus 101 point differential. I don't know how that is. The defense has not been as good as it should be. So your defensive coordinator decided not to come back this year. You fired your offensive coordinator. There's no room for McDermott to hire anymore. I said on the Are You Serious show on Friday that I think we could have a record number of coaching changes this year, and this could be one of them. I think there's as many as 13 head coaches that could get fired, including the guys that I already have. Robert Saleh, I don't think is going to get a pass. I thought he would originally, but his team has been so bad, so embarrassing, I don't think he gets another chance. Bill Belichick, God knows what's going to happen. I do not think he'll be back. That could be 3 coaches right there in the AFC East. I think the Bills will make the playoffs, but I think they'll go out. And stop telling me the Bills can't run the football. The Bills, James Cook has run for over 700 yards. They're averaging almost 5 yards a carry. They don't score any touchdowns out of the running game because Josh Allen scores them all. He's got 9 rushing touchdowns. James Cook has got 1. That's either the coaches, game planning that way, or it's Josh Allen just ad-libbing. Josh Allen is both a great quarterback and a problem. In the best analogy I can find is Brett Favre. He's Brett Favre, which means he's good enough to win a championship. What we got here? Where are we? Yeah, wake up, Drew. Yeah, it's not my fault that you don't enjoy college football. I'm just saying, so you know. Because Saturdays, and I'm going to say this loud enough because now that you're here to listen, Saturdays are so much better than Sundays. It's not even close. It's not even close. The NFL needs to look at what's going on around the country, the excitement in these college stadiums, and they need to figure out how to fix the boring game that they're giving us every week. So if people, and again, I know you're not saying this, Drew, I'm just using you as an example because you sleep during the college portion. You don't know what you're missing. It's a tremendous sport, and it is going to eclipse the NFL if the NFL doesn't do something very soon. The NFL is ruining the game. The parity in the game is awful. Half the games are unwatchable every week, and that's because of rule changes. That's because of the silly money we give quarterbacks. And again, I'm a guy who says the guy deserves everything he can get. I'm okay with that. But if you want to pay your quarterback $50 million, well, then you're going to have some bad play somewhere else. And that's one of the reasons we're seeing horrible play around the league. It's a bad product right now. It's terrible. Still an NFL fan, but mostly for my team. College, I enjoy watching games that I'll turn on a game that I don't even care about in the Mountain West. And it's better than half the crap I watch on Sundays. Just so I want to get that off my chest. That's why we spend so much time on college football. In a few weeks, you won't need to worry about it anymore. Ethan Bosco is a quarterback at Coastal Carolina. Thank you, Rick, for filling us in there. Too small, will continue to get hurt. Maybe. Why not give up? The Jets do. I'm not a give up guy. I'm not a tanker. I want my team to win every week. I'll root for my team to win every week. It's hard. I'm sitting with even my buddies. Why are we rooting for them to win? Because you play to win the games. If you want to tank, plus you have to draft picks don't work out anyway. Tanking doesn't always work. You cannot copy college games simply because they don't have 15,000 students. I'm not saying to copy it, Kenny. Again, I know you can't. You can't copy it and you can't line it up face to face. I'm just saying the game is much better. The game itself is much better. The games are better. And the atmosphere that comes from the 15,000 students, and maybe more, probably more, right? Well, I shouldn't say that. Alumni and whatnot. But the product is better. The NFL is shooting themselves in the foot big time between the fact that, you're playing football too many nights a week. We didn't need a Black Friday game. Oh. I'm very worked up today, right? I'm angry. That's because I got to go watch the Patriots get beat again today. How many flags on Thursday Night Football? Exactly. The games are impossible to watch. You listen to Thursday night, listen to Al Michaels' exasperation calling these games. The only thing enjoyable about the entire game is Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit, who I absolutely love. Kirk Herbstreit. Can't be a more tired guy in the country today than Kirk Herbstreit, by the way. He did the Thursday night game. He flew to Vegas to do the Pac-12 championship game, which got over at midnight, and flew midnight here. He had to fly to Georgia to be in Atlanta for the game day yesterday at 9 a.m. He looked tired. Anyway, AFC North. Baltimore, 2-game lead over Pittsburgh. Listen, Mike Tomlin's doing a great job. Their team to be 7-4. No quarterback, no offense to speak of. Minus point differential. They're 7-4 and right in the playoff hunt. The Browns, we'll see if Stefanski. I thought Stefanski could be in trouble this year. If he finds a way to get this team in the playoffs, he'll probably be safe. If he gets fired, watch out for potential Ryan Day rumors. Ryan Day is going to look to get ahead of the posse and Ohio State. Can't beat Michigan. I think he's going to be a pro coach. Bengals season is over. Lost 3 in a row now after really rebounding from a bad start. It's obvious now they can't replace Joe Burrow. It's just not enough. The quarterback's not good enough. Again, another problem paying guys $50 million. And quarterback play in the league is awful. Awful. You got great quarterbacks, don't get me wrong. Patrick Mahomes, really good. Jalen Hurts, really good. But look at half these teams. You got a quarterback issues on the Jets, on the Patriots, on the Steelers, on the Browns, on the Bengals because of backup, on the Colts, on the Titans, on the Raiders. That's half the AFC. This league stinks right now. Speaking of Jacksonville, I like them a lot this week. We'll talk about that. They're leading the Colts. They're 6-5. I don't know how they won 3 in a row. I have no idea how, but Minshew is not going to take this team to the playoffs, and if he does, they're not going to win a game. Jacksonville's a really, really good team, and it's a team that could compete for a championship this year. I'll get to some comments. I'm going to finish up the AFC real quick, and we'll go back to some comments. The Texans are playing, but I think they're better than the Colts. C.J. Stroud has played very, very, very well. DeMarco Ryans is the coach of the year unless they totally implode. And Tennessee, we're going to just find out whether Will Levis is an NFL quarterback here the next few weeks. I know everybody wants to run the Chiefs down, but they're 8-3. Still the best team in the AFC, in my mind, until Miami beats them. The Broncos have bounced back with 5 wins in a row. I wrote them off for dead, but they're still got a minus 34. Losing 70-0 or whatever they lost to hurts that for sure. What was the score of that game? The Raiders are terrible. Antonio Pierce is not keeping his job. I don't care if they threaten to mutiny. What are the players going to do? They don't run the show. It's another problem. You got a bunch of thugs in this freaking league. Not that the college is pristine. Von Miller, just the latest. Don't let the arrow to football, though. And the Chargers, bad coaching. That's the best. They should be one of the 5 best teams in the AFC at least. They're terrible. Oh, my God. You'll be happy I'm not going to be able to get to the NBA today. What'd I say? Herb Street? Whatever. I call him Kurt because it's Kurt, and I mix it up. Thank you, though, Drew, because Drew is my linguist. I still haven't figured out the right thing to call you as my speech coach, Drew. I think linguist coach would work. I'm not sure, though. Oh, Garage, you're from Perth. Kirk Herb Street. I do it all every week. His name could be Curb Street, and he could help me out by changing his name and not make me have to go through all this. New England is impossible to watch this year. Hockey games probably uptick in attendance. New England's, listen, I've said before, I say this about my baseball team. I'll say this about my football team, and I'll say it about all the bad teams. It's one thing to be bad. It's another thing to be bad and boring. And that's what my team is, bad and boring. That's what a lot of these bad teams are. And that's why this league has got to fix something, especially if you're going to you're going to be charging more. Guys, whether you know it or not, the days of being able to watch all the best games on broadcast TV are about over, or digital TV, whatever we're calling it today. Free TV. Almost over. There's already a playoff game you're going to have to pay to watch, by the way. I think it's on Peacock. First round. That's what the future is. You're going to pay. Like it or not, if you want to watch, you're going to pay. I'll pay, but give me a decent product. Please. Chad, here's hoping Will Levis throws 4 touchdowns again today and beats the Colts, and we lose 5 more spots in the draft. I'm glad you're there hoping, because I believe you said you're a Tennessee fan, if I remember. It's not that good. Injuries on the Chargers have caused some of their issues. Yeah, that and the fact that they have one of the worst coaching staffs in football, one of the worst head coaches in football. Sorry, I'm blaming nobody but the coaching staff for this. And the injuries, again, are the league's fault as well. The league and the players in cahoots because of the union's agreement with the league is we can only wear pads 10 days in the in the summer during training camp. Once season starts, you don't hit during the week. That's why guys get hurt. They don't get hit enough outside of games. The only times they get hit are in games. So they aren't as good as absorbing hits. The quarterbacks don't know how to fall down without getting hurt. And if you don't think that's a thing, you need to watch. And these games, these injuries are on the league and on the players. A lot of them, not all of them. Plus the turf they put in. Things that could be avoided as well. NFL and NBA are riddled with thugs. That's the biggest problem. The NFL's been riddled, and so is the NBA. Listen, you can kill 2 people or be involved in killing 2 people in the NFL. And if you're a great player, Hall of Fame player apparently, you'll be able to just kind of say, I'm sorry, and come back. I don't remember him being suspended at all. And if I'm wrong, correct me. But don't let the air out of a football. Unbelievable. Hurry, baseball question. I'm going to get there. Without Joe, Monday Night Football wouldn't be very interesting. I can't watch. I can. I'm not a big. I'm not a big Joe Buck detractor. Like a lot of people hate Joe Buck. I don't know why. I don't have a problem with Buck and Aikman, but I can't watch Monday Night Football on the traditional cast. I watch the Manning cast unless they're not on. I watch a Manning cast every week. I love it. I think it's much more entertaining than the traditional cast. Hitting. They don't have a problem hitting women. Well, this is a good point. Thank you. Let's get through the NFC. We'll go through the games quick, and I want to get to a baseball question that came up in a debate show yesterday. So that'll give you a little hint. The NFC, the Eagles and Cowboys, game and a half. They're separated by the Cowboys have a much larger point differential. Everybody talks about Josh Allen, being a little loose with the football. Jalen Hurts this year has been not as good as he was last year, but he's still a top-notch quarterback. This is a really good football team. How they're an underdog at home this week is amazing to me. Now, understand the point spreads are to drive money on both sides. That's what it's for. It's not really who they think is going to win or lose the game. But still, whoever doesn't bet, well, whatever. I'm all over the Eagles +3 today. Giants playing out the string. Commanders, new coaches in Washington for sure. Lions, are they as good as 8-3? Not sure with that bad loss to Green Bay, but Green Bay is getting better. Vikings 6-6. Dobbs has got to look at. He played a couple of really good games. And then now he's played a really bad game and one before that was okay. But he's not the answer. It was laughable, and I'm not the biggest Kirk Cousins fans in the world, but everybody's ready to cut ties with Cousins and make Dobbs a quarterback. Come on. Don't let the air out of a football. What I said, that you can quote me on that. I've been saying that for how many years now? That's got to be, Jesus, how many years ago is that? 7, 6, more, maybe more. No, it's probably like 9 or 10. The Falcons in the South, nobody wants to win as usual here. All 5-6, 4-7. Who cares? They may lose all these coaches. Well, Carolina fired their coach. Bowles ought to get fired. Allen ought to get fired in New Orleans. And Arthur Smith, what's the guy's name in Atlanta? Arthur Smith ought to get fired as well. You're going to have all new coaches there. In the West, the 49ers are rebounding nicely. Seahawks on a 3-game losing streak. I don't know. That team, Geno got hurt. Geno's not playing anywhere near as well as he did last year, and I was afraid of that. They were my Super Bowl pick, but they're just playing really bad football right now. And the Rams, just okay. Cardinals, bad. Let's look at today's games real quickly so that we can go on to this Major League Baseball question I have for you guys. And I'll give you some time to. I'm going to give you the question. I'm going to go through the games. I'll give you the question now. So we had a big debate yesterday, and I'll tell you where I was sided on this. Should Billy Martin be in a Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame? So I'm going to do football picks first, and then we're going to talk about that real quick. And then, why do I have depth charts? Jesus Christ. All right. Chargers. Chargers are 5-point favorite over the Patriots at home. Don't know how that can be. I do know how that can be. I'm sorry. I bet you the Patriots haven't been a 5-point underdog at home. They've hardly been an underdog at home in probably 25 years, but except for a handful of times. 5 points, probably got to go back a long ways. Colts at the Titans. That's an unwatchable game. Here I am, a Patriot fan. I'll watch every play because that's who I am. Horrible game. Colts and Titans, that's not a good game. Indianapolis is a 1-point favorite on the road. I'll take the Titans. I'll take the Patriots today, plus the 5. I got to bet 2 games today. I've only got 2 games left to bet because I bet 4 college games in the split. And I'm definitely betting the Eagles. Lions and Saints. A lot of home dogs this week. Lions and Saints. I'm going to take the Lions over the Saints today. I'm going to take the Jets to beat Atlanta, though. Somehow the Jets will get it done today. I want them to be just good enough that Aaron Rodgers says, "Oh, I'm coming back." Cardinals. By the way, bad football game. Cardinals and Steelers. Steelers are an impressive 7-4, but their games are like unwatchable. Dolphins and Commanders. I'll take the Dolphins minus 8.5. I might bet that game. Not sure. Broncos and Texans. Texans minus 3. I'll take the Texans at home here. Buccaneers and Panthers. There's a great game. Tampa Bay minus 3. I'll take. Rams, and Drew, you can put your update, my last place update. I will tell you in the cigar box, I'm approaching 4 digits ahead. Just saying. So best bets are doing pretty well. Where was I? Rams and Browns, that exciting Brown game. The Rams are a 3.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Rams. Not a bad job by John McVay this year with not a great cast of characters. 4:30 game, Eagles and 49ers. 49ers are 3. Not sure how. I know they're playing great football, but the Eagles aren't playing bad. 10-1 is 10-1. Playing at home. Give me the dog. Chiefs minus 6 over the Packers. Could be a bet. Oh no, I'm sorry. I know who my other bet is. The Jaguars over the I'll take the Chiefs over the Packers minus 6. The Jaguars minus 9.5 over the Bengals Monday night. That'll be my bet. So you got me. I got the Jaguars and I got the what did I say? The Eagles this week. So comments. Let's move on to some baseball real quick. We got 10 minutes to discuss Billy Martin and some other stuff. Curious. And maybe nobody cares. I do. I will tell you that I said Billy Martin definitely belongs in the Hall of Fame. Billy Martin is a top 5 best manager in baseball ever. Hall of Fame, absolutely. best five, top five. I'm not sure I'd go there, but I appreciate that sentiment. Billy Martin, again, his own worst enemy. He did not stay places a long time like Earl Weaver. This is the argument that Doc gave me yesterday. That because I said, why do you hurt? How many World Series has Billy Martin won? One. But Billy Martin turned around like 5 teams immediately when he got there. The Twins, the Tigers, the Rangers, the Yankees, the A's. Turned them all around. Don't tell me about what happened afterwards. He wasn't there. I'll give you your argument about the A's and he burned out a bunch of young pitchers' arms. Other than that, he wasn't there. He wasn't there in 1979 when Bob Lemon got fired and he got rehired with the Yankees. Did he implode after turning these teams around a lot himself and got fired due to his own behavior? Yes. But Earl Weaver and Whitey Herzog are in the Hall of Fame with very similar records. I think Weaver won maybe 100 or 150 games more. 1 World Series win. Herzog, 1 World Series win. The guys that are up for what used to be the Veterans Committee, it's now called the Contemporary Era Committee. Lou Piniella. Love Lou. 1 World Series. And not with some of his best teams. He lost with some great teams. Jim Leland, 1 World Series. Wayne Huizenga went out and bought a World Series. Never could get over the hump with Pittsburgh. Couldn't even get to a World Series. Took some good Tiger teams to the World Series. Didn't win. Who's the other guy? Davey Johnson. Davey Johnson compares. He's a great comparison to Billy. Coaching a lot of places, turned all these teams around, and won 1 World Series. I think Davey Johnson belongs in the Hall of Fame. By the way, not so sure about Leland and Lou. Sorry. But if any of these guys get in, Billy's got to be in. That's my major argument. Plus, Billy, change my banner here. Plus, Billy, I'm on baseball news. Where am I? Yeah, MLB news and notes. There we go. Plus, Billy brought some excitement to the game, both the way it was played and in his antics, with umpires. At a time baseball was struggling, attendance-wise, TV-wise. Baseball needs a Billy Martin today to change the narrative that we have. These games are so boring as we sit and wait for home runs and walks and guys bringing 5 guys throwing 100 miles an hour. In the 1977 playoffs, I don't remember if it was game 4 or 5. He brought his closer in the 4th inning. Sparky Lyle pitched 5.5 innings in that game and got the win. I'm going to do that today. Why bring the guy in the games on the line when I can just wait until I got a 3-run lead and then in the 9th inning? Because none of these guys want to come in with guys on base and unbelievably bad. I still love this line. I think I should be. Maybe I should just steal that. May I copyright that? Billy Martin is a legend without legendary status. Great. Carlos with a very great point. And don't forget the Yankees had been nowhere when he came home for 12 years. A wasteland. And some decent teams. That aberration 74 made a pennant run. They won 93 games, I think, in 70, and were 20 games behind the Orioles. Hank Peters, executive. Hank Peters can get in. I don't have a problem with Davey Johnson getting in. I don't have a problem with Lou Piniella getting in. But you can't let these guys in and leave Billy Martin out. And Doc told me, because he was against it. I was for it. Jack Hirsch was for it. His whole argument is the fact that Billy drank too much. That Billy was a racist. Billy wasn't a racist. Billy didn't like Reggie because he didn't like Reggie's personality. He didn't like his me first attitude. He didn't like him making comments in the press like, I'm the straw that stirs the drink and Thurman can only stir it bad. Or, he comes back from a suspension and he's asked, what's your thoughts of all about this? What do you take away from this? He goes, the magnitude of me. That's why Billy didn't like Reggie. He didn't like Ken Holtzman because he couldn't pitch. One of his great arguments was that he traded Larry Gura because he didn't like Gura playing tennis. Didn't think it was manly. So what? That's Billy's right to do. He didn't like Larry Gura. He traded him. And by the way, he said Larry Gura was a Yankee killer after that. I would debate that as well. I know he wasn't in the playoffs in 77 and 78. Billy rode him like crazy from the dugout and drove him out of games. Martin, Weaver, Anderson, and a few made baseball fun to watch. Nowadays, you could play the over and under on which inning he would get tossed. You could. That would be a thing on DraftKings. I was waiting for Doc to bring up winning percentage because, Billy's only 43rd in the winning percentage of managers in all time. And I'm going to say, if that's such a big deal, I guess, because I know he hates Aaron Boone as much as I do. Aaron Boone is number 10 all time in winning percentage. He didn't go there, though. So Billy the Kid could party with the best of them. That gets him in. That's probably not the criteria. Oh, by the way, if we're only going to judge people on their character, well, then we got to empty out half of the Hall of Fame anyway. Babe Ruth was a perfect guy. Leo DeRocher, not a good guy. Ty Cobb, one of the worst human beings ever to walk the face of the earth. Personal issues should not be immeasurable. I agree. And he said he was a distraction to the team. That they wouldn't have won in 78 if they hadn't fired him. That's debatable, by the way, because it's a misnomer. People think the Yankees were 14 and a half games back when Billy got fired. They were not. They'd already started to play better baseball. They'd cut into that lead already. And the real reason the Yankees came back in 78 was the newspaper strike. That's why they came back, because they were off the back page for the entire summer. Anyway, I thought I'd throw that out. We didn't get into the hockey. I'm sorry. We didn't get into the NBA. I know you want to get into the NBA, Kenny. Wish we'd been able to do that, but we weren't. I appreciate you guys. I know we had a long college football. What happened? Oh. I know we had a long college football episode today because it was bound to happen with everything that was going on. Watch the I got to get out of here. Watch the selection show at noon, and T's head will explode when Florida State is left out. You can picture that. I'll be at Creekside if you want me to buy you a beer there. Anybody local, Mark, Rick, Kenny. I'll see you guys next week. I'll be away this week. Again, no Are You Serious Friday and no Major League Baseball update. I will do a college football huddle live next Saturday morning. See you later. And I'll be live next Sunday as well. See you later. Bengals, TGI Sports Talk. Bye-bye.